The still surface of a hidden lake reflects the entire sky, yet the slightest pebble of our agitation can shatter that perfect calm. Do you ever find yourself in those rare, quiet moments, only to realize that even when the world outside is hushed, a relentless storm of thoughts and anxieties continues to rage within your own mind, leaving you to wonder if true serenity is just a poet's dream? Have you diligently followed all the well-meaning advice, simplified your life, practiced gratitude, perhaps even meditated, yet still feel that a deep, abiding peace remains stubbornly out of reach, like a secret password you just can't seem to guess? There is an ancient Buddhist understanding, a subtle yet profoundly transformative answer to this common human struggle, an insight often overlooked in our modern quest for quick fixes and external solutions. It points not to something you lack or something new you must acquire, but to a fundamental misunderstanding of where peace truly resides and what obstructs it. This isn't about trying harder or adding more techniques. It's about seeing something differently, something so close it's easily missed. Stay with me as we gently uncover this ancient secret. We will explore why, despite your best efforts, peace may still feel elusive, and how a slight shift in perspective, guided by this timeless wisdom, can unlock the door to the quiet stillness you have always carried within you. Imagine a man named Kale, a skilled artisan renowned for crafting exquisite musical instruments. His workshop, nestled in a quiet valley, was filled with the scent of rare woods and the promise of beautiful sound. People traveled from distant lands seeking his lutes and flutes, believing them to possess a unique ability to soothe the soul. Yet, Kale himself, the creator of these vessels of harmony, was a man in quiet turmoil. His own heart was a discordant orchestra, his mind a restless sea. He yearned for peace with an almost desperate intensity. He believed that if he could just perfect his craft further, create an instrument of unparalleled beauty and flawless tone, then surely the peace he poured into his work would reflect back into his own spirit. He meticulously selected the finest materials, spent countless hours sanding, shaping, and stringing his focus absolute. Each instrument was a masterpiece, celebrated by all who heard it. His clients would describe the profound calm his music brought them, the sense of serenity that washed over them as the notes filled the air. Kale would listen to these accounts with a mixture of pride and a deep, private sorrow. The peace he facilitated for others remained a stranger to him. After completing each instrument, a fleeting sense of accomplishment would touch him, but it would soon be swallowed by the familiar undercurrent of restlessness, the subtle, persistent hum of anxiety. He built soundproof rooms within his workshop, seeking silence, hoping that by shutting out the world, he could find stillness within. He traveled to remote mountains, listening to the wind in the pines, hoping nature's grandeur would impart its tranquility. He read ancient scrolls on philosophy and mindfulness, trying to intellectually grasp the mechanics of peaceful mind. He tried everything he knew. He would sit for hours, attempting to quiet his thoughts, but they would skitter and leap like untamed monkeys, chattering about imperfections in his latest work, worrying about future commissions, replaying old regrets. The more he tried to force his mind into submission, the more agitated it became. Peace felt like a beautiful, wild deer he was constantly trying to capture. The more he lunged for it, the further it bounded away into the dense forest of his inner turmoil. His days were a paradox, hands creating perfect harmony, heart wrestling with an enduring dissonance. One season, an old, unassuming monk, traveling through the valley, stopped at Kale's workshop. He wasn't seeking an instrument, only a place to rest his weary feet. Kale, ever hospitable, welcomed him in, offering him tea. As they sat, the monk observed Kale's subtle restlessness, the way his eyes darted, the slight tremor in his hands, even when they were still. You create such profound peace for others with your craft, the monk remarked gently, his voice like the soft rustle of autumn leaves. Yet, if I may be so bold, it seems the music of your own heart is troubled. Kale, surprised by the monk's directness yet disarmed by his kindness, found himself confessing his long, fruitless search. I have tried everything, venerable sir, he said, his voice laced with frustration. Silence, nature, philosophy, perfecting my art, but peace remains elusive. It's as if I am missing a vital key. The monk listened patiently, his gaze unwavering and compassionate. When Kale finished, the monk picked up a smoothly sanded piece of willow wood, destined to become part of a flute. He held it to the light. This wood, he said softly, does not struggle to be willow. It does not strive to be oak or pine. It simply is willow in its inness. Its potential for music is inherent, waiting not for struggle, but for skillful allowing. He then looked at Kale. You seek peace as if it is something outside of you, something to be achieved, constructed, or captured, much like you construct your beautiful instruments. You try to silence the mind to perfect the conditions. But what if the ancient secret, the one so often missed, is that peace is not the result of a successful battle against your thoughts, nor the prize for creating perfect external silence? Kale leaned forward, listening intently. What if, the monk continued, his voice barely above a whisper, true peace is the quiet acceptance of the music that is already playing within you, including the discordant notes? What if it is the spaciousness that arises when you stop fighting your own mind, and instead learn to observe its restless dance with gentle, non-judgmental awareness? The deer of peace does not come when chased, Kale. It approaches when you become still, when you offer a space of welcome to all that is without preference, without resistance. The untold answer is not in adding another technique, but in subtracting the effortful resistance itself. Kale sat in silence, the monk's words echoing in the workshop, mingling with the faint scent of cedar and pine. The idea that peace wasn't achievement, but an allowing, not a victory over the mind, but a truce with it, was so profoundly simple, yet so radically different from his lifelong approach. He looked at his hands, hands that knew how to shape and perfect, and wondered if they could learn a new skill, the art of letting be. Kale's struggle, his earnest yet ultimately frustrating quest for peace, mirrors a deep human predicament. We yearn for inner stillness, for a sanctuary from the relentless agitation of mind and world. Yet this very yearning, and the ways we try to satisfy it often leads us further from our goal. The Buddhist understanding of why the mind clings to unpeaceful states and entertains profound misconceptions about peace is crucial to unraveling this paradox. One primary reason is our fundamental misunderstanding of dukkha, often translated as suffering or dissatisfaction. We perceive dukkha as an external enemy to be vanquished, difficult circumstances, unpleasant emotions, disruptive thoughts. Our strategy, therefore, is to eliminate these causes of unpeace, believing that if we can create a life free of problems, peace will automatically ensue. This leads to a constant state of doing, fixing, arranging, and controlling our external world, and a similar battle waged internally against unwanted thoughts and feelings. We are clinging to the idea that peace is the absence of all discomfort, a perfect, unchanging state of bliss. However, the Buddha taught that life inherently involves change, anicca, and unsatisfactoriness, dukkha. Clinging to the desire for a problem-free existence is itself a source of profound unpeace, as life will inevitably present challenges. The mind also has a powerful tendency towards habitual proliferation of thought, often referred to as papanka. Our monkey mind, as it's sometimes called, leaps from one thought to another, often getting caught in loops of worry, rumination, judgment, and fantasy. This isn't an inherent flaw, but a conditioned pattern. We cling to these thought patterns because they provide a semblance of activity, of being in control by analyzing and figuring things out, or simply because they are familiar. We may even unconsciously cling to our anxieties and worries because they have become part of our identity. I am a worrier. Peace seems impossible when this internal chatter is constant. Yet our attempts to forcibly silence it often just amplify the noise, like trying to smooth a rough sea with an iron. We cling to the misconception that we are our thoughts rather than the awareness observing them. Aversion, patigha, is another powerful form of clinging that obstructs peace. When unpleasant sensations, emotions, or thoughts arise, which they inevitably do, our conditioned reflex is to push them away, resist them, deny them. We believe these negative states are antithetical to peace. So, we spend enormous energy trying to suppress anger, numb sadness, or distract ourselves from fear. This resistance, however, creates immense inner tension. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It takes constant effort and creates turbulence. Peace cannot coexist with such internal warfare. We cling to the belief that peace means feeling only good emotions, which is an unrealistic and ultimately unpeaceful expectation. Furthermore, we often cling to specific outcomes and expectations about how our lives should be for us to feel peaceful. I will be at peace when I have the perfect relationship. I will be at peace when my children are settled. I will be at peace when I retire and have no more stress. This conditional approach to peace means we are always waiting, always striving for a future state that may never perfectly materialize, or if it does, will itself be impermanent. Our peace becomes hostage to external circumstances, which are inherently uncontrollable. This is a deep clinging to control, a desire to orchestrate reality to fit our preferences, born from a fear of uncertainty and the unknown. Many of us also operate under the misconception that peace is something to be found or achieved as an external commodity, like Kale seeking it in silent rooms or remote mountains. We look for it in retreats, in gurus, in books, in specific techniques. While these can be helpful supports, the idea that peace is out there leads to endless seeking. We may collect spiritual experiences or meditative skills, yet still feel an underlying lack if we believe peace is an acquisition rather than an inherent potential to be uncovered within. We cling to the role of the seeker, which ironically perpetuates the sense that peace is not yet here. Relatable, everyday examples of these clingings are abundant. The constant checking of news and social media, fearing we'll miss something important, which fuels anxiety rather than peace. The obsessive planning and scheduling to avoid any discomfort or spontaneity. The rumination over past mistakes or future worries instead of being present. The pursuit of endless entertainment and distraction to avoid sitting with ourselves. The subtle but constant judgment of ourselves and others, creating inner division. The small but profound shift in awareness that Buddhist wisdom offers as a path to true peace is this. Peace is not the absence of life's challenges or the silencing of the mind, but the development of a spacious, accepting, and unwavering inner presence that can meet all experiences with equanimity. The ancient answer, "No one tells you," begins with the understanding that peace is not something you create by manipulating the external world or by winning a battle against your inner world. It is the natural state of a mind that has ceased to cling, ceased to resist, and ceased to be lost in illusion. It is always here, beneath the turbulence, waiting to be revealed when we finally stop stirring the waters of our own being. If the relentless struggle against our inner world and the constant seeking of ideal external conditions are what paradoxically keep peace at bay, then the ancient Buddhist path invites us into a radically different mode of practice. It's not about adding more complex techniques to our already burdened minds, but about a gentle subtraction, a letting go of the very habits that generate our inner turmoil. The untold answer to finding peace lies less in what we do and more in how we learn to be with ourselves and our experience, just as it is. A foundational approach to cultivating this inner stillness begins with learning to relate differently to our own thoughts and emotions. Instead of being swept away by every thought or desperately trying to suppress unwelcome feelings, we can cultivate the quality of mindful observation. This involves gently stepping back and witnessing the flow of our inner experience with a kind, non-judgmental curiosity, much like watching clouds drift across the sky. There is no need to engage with every cloud, to analyze its shape, or to wish it were different. We simply acknowledge its presence and allow it to pass. This practice of disidentification, recognizing that you are not your thoughts, but the awareness that perceives them, creates an inner space, a sanctuary of calm, even amidst mental activity. You might begin by dedicating a few minutes each day to sit quietly, noticing the breath, and when thoughts arise, as they inevitably will, just label them softly as thinking and gently return your attention to the breath. This isn't about stopping thought, which is often impossible but about changing your relationship to it, loosening its grip on your peace. An internal reflection that can support this is, these thoughts are just thoughts passing through. I can choose not to board every train. Another vital aspect of uncovering the peace that is already present involves the deep and often challenging practice of acceptance, particularly acceptance of discomfort. So much of our inner unrest comes from resisting what is, resisting unpleasant sensations, difficult emotions, or unwanted realities. The ancient wisdom suggests that true peace arises not when all discomfort is eliminated, but when we develop the capacity to meet discomfort with an open and allowing presence. This doesn't mean resignation or condoning harm, but rather acknowledging the reality of the present moment without adding a layer of mental or emotional resistance. When a difficult emotion like anxiety or sadness arises, instead of immediately trying to fix it or distract yourself, you might try to gently turn towards it. Notice where you feel it in your body. Acknowledge its presence without judgment. Ah, this is anxiety. It is here right now. Breathe with it. Allow it to be, without fueling it with stories or struggling against it. Paradoxically, when we stop fighting discomfort, its power over us often diminishes, and a surprising sense of peace can emerge from that very acceptance. This connects deeply to the understanding of dukkha. By accepting the inherent unsatisfactoriness and discomforts of life without adding secondary suffering through resistance, we find a more stable footing. A quiet affirmation here might be, may I meet this moment just as it is with courage and kindness. Furthermore, we can actively cultivate upekkha, or equanimity, which is a profound state of balance and inner composure that allows us to face life's inevitable ups and downs, its joys and sorrows, gains and losses, praise and blame, without being thrown off center. This isn't indifference or emotional detachment, but a spacious wisdom that understands the transient nature of all experiences, anicca. One way to nurture equanimity is to reflect on the impermanence of all things. When experiencing pleasure, acknowledge it without clinging, knowing it will change. When experiencing pain, meet it with compassion, knowing it too will pass. You can also reflect on the vastness of perspective, how small your current worry might seem in the context of a lifetime, or in the grand sweep of human history, or in the immensity of the universe. This helps to reduce the ego's tendency to catastrophize or overly identify with temporary states. It's about finding that still point in the turning world. Over time, this practice helps the mind to settle, reducing its reactivity and allowing the inherent peace that lies beneath this surface agitation to become more apparent. You might remind yourself, this too shall pass. I can remain balanced and present. These practices, woven into the fabric of daily life with patience and gentle consistency, begin to unravel the ingrained habits of seeking, resisting, and clinging. They don't offer a quick fix for peace, because the untold answer is that peace isn't a fix to be applied. It is the inherent nature of a mind that has come to rest in its own awareness, a mind that has learned the profound skill of letting be. The journey toward inner peace, as illuminated by these ancient Buddhist insights, is less a dramatic conquest and more a gentle, almost imperceptible settling. It's a shift from the exhausting cycle of seeking external solutions and wrestling with internal states, to a profound realization that the peace we yearn for is not built or found, but uncovered. It's a movement from a mind that is constantly doing to a mind that is learning to simply be, and in that being, discovering an inherent stillness. Let's revisit Kale, the instrument maker, who initially believed peace was an elusive prize to be won through perfect silence or flawless artistry. As he began to practice observing his restless thoughts without judgment, as he started to allow his anxieties to be present without immediately trying to banish them, something remarkable began to happen. The internal noise didn't necessarily vanish overnight, but its power to disturb him lessened. He found that he could be working on a delicate piece of inlay, and a worried thought about a future deadline might arise. Before, this thought would have hijacked his attention, creating tension and frustration. Now he learned to acknowledge it, a worrying thought, and gently guide his focus back to the wood, the tool, the present sensation. The thought might still linger in the background, but it no longer dominated the entire landscape of his mind. He was discovering that peace wasn't the absence of thoughts, but the absence of struggle with thoughts. Similarly, when feelings of sadness or creative block arose, instead of his old pattern of either fighting them or sinking into despair, Kale began to meet them with a tentative acceptance. He learned to sit with the discomfort, to breathe into it, to allow it to be part of his experience without demanding it go away. Paradoxically, this gentle allowing often created the very space needed for these difficult emotions to soften and transform on their own. He realized that his constant resistance had been like adding fuel to a fire. By removing the fuel of struggle, the flames naturally subsided, revealing an unexpected clearing of inner calm. This was the beginning of experiencing peace, not as a fleeting mood dependent on positive circumstances, but as a resilient undercurrent of well-being. The shift from seeking to settling often manifests as a reduced reactivity to life's inevitable irritations and setbacks. The spilled cup of tea, the critical comment from a client, the unexpected delay. These things still happened, but Kale found they no longer had the power to shatter his inner equilibrium for hours or days. There was a growing spaciousness around his experiences, an ability to pause before reacting out of old habit. This pause allowed him to choose a more measured, wise response rather than being driven by immediate emotional impulses. His workshop, once a place of intense, striving for an elusive peace, began to feel more like a sanctuary where peace was simply allowed to be present alongside the creative process, imperfections and all. Revisiting the pain points of his earlier struggle is instructive. The constant, gnawing restlessness began to ease as he found more moments of genuine presence. The frustration of his failed attempts to force peace gave way to a patient understanding that peace unfolds. It isn't forced. The fear that he was inherently unpeaceful was gradually replaced by the experiential knowing that peace was a learnable way of relating to his own mind. The ancient Buddhist answer that no one tells you, that peace comes from ceasing the inner war, was no longer just a concept but a lived reality, blossoming in the quiet spaces he was learning to cultivate. Of course, patience with this process is essential. The deeply ingrained habits of a lifetime, the tendency to worry, to resist, to seek externally, do not vanish overnight. There were days when Cale found himself caught again in old patterns, when the inner storm felt overwhelming, when peace seemed as distant as ever. In the past, such moments would have led to self-criticism and a sense of failure. But now, informed by a more compassionate understanding, he learned to meet these setbacks with kindness. He recognized them not as proof that the path wasn't working, but simply as opportunities to practice again, to gently renew his commitment to awareness and acceptance. This self-compassion became a cornerstone of his unfolding peace. The most profound aspect of this shift is often a fundamental change in one's sense of self. The identification with the turbulent, ever-changing stream of thoughts and emotions begins to loosen. One starts to sense a deeper, quieter awareness that is always present, an awareness that is inherently peaceful and untouched by the surface agitations. This isn't about becoming emotionless or detached in an unfeeling way. It's about discovering a core of stability and wisdom from which one can engage with life more fully, more compassionately, and with a deep, unshakable sense of inner okayness. Imbue your heart with this quiet understanding. Peace is not a distant shore to be reached after a perilous voyage, but the calm sea that is discovered when we finally allow the winds of our own resistance to subside. This realization doesn't lead to a passive withdrawal from life, but to a more authentic and joyful engagement, an engagement born not from lack and seeking, but from a place of quiet fullness. Our journey together has navigated the often choppy waters of our common human longing for peace. We started by acknowledging that pervasive feeling of unrest, that sense that despite our most earnest efforts, true serenity remains just out of reach. Through Cale's story, we saw how the very act of chasing peace, of trying to construct it through external means or by waging war against our inner experience, can paradoxically deepen our agitation. We then explored the ancient Buddhist answer, the one so often overlooked, that peace is not an acquisition, nor an achievement, but an inherent quality of mind that is revealed when we gently cease our struggle, our resistance, our relentless doing. It's a shift from seeking to settling, from fighting to allowing. Remember Cale, the artisan, initially creating instruments of harmony for others while his own heart remained dissonant, and the monk's gentle guidance, suggesting that peace isn't found by silencing the discordant notes, but by creating a spacious acceptance for all the music within. As Cale began to practice this radical acceptance, observing his thoughts with kindness, allowing his difficult emotions without resistance, he didn't suddenly become a different person. Rather, he became more fully himself, uncovering the quiet symphony of peace that had always been there, beneath the surface noise of his striving. The willow wood, inherently itself, found its music through skillful allowing, not struggle. Similarly, Cale found his peace not by becoming someone new, but by allowing his true, aware nature to emerge from beneath the layers of conditioned reactivity. The ancient answer that no one tells you is truly this simple, yet profoundly challenging to our conditioned minds. Stop fighting. Stop fighting your thoughts. Stop fighting your feelings. Stop fighting the present moment. This doesn't mean passive resignation to harmful situations, but an end to the internal war, the resistance that consumes so much of our precious energy and creates so much of our suffering. When we finally lay down our inner weapons, when we become quiet enough to listen without judgment to the entirety of our experience, a natural peace begins to well up from the depths of our being. It was never truly absent, only obscured like the sun hidden behind storm clouds of our own making. Let us take a moment now to touch into this quiet space, to embody this gentle path of allowing. Find a posture that feels both relaxed and alert. Allow your body to be supported, to soften. Close your eyes gently, but let your gaze be soft and unfocused. Bring your awareness to the natural rhythm of your breath, feeling it enter and leave your body. There's no need to control it. Simply observe it like a gentle tide. As thoughts or sensations arise, as they surely will, imagine them as leaves floating on a calm stream, observed by you from the bank. There is no need to jump into the stream, no need to grasp at the leaves or push them away. Simply watch them drift by. Allow this intention to settle into your heart, like a soft rain on thirsty ground. In this moment of quiet, I lay down the struggle. I welcome the peace that resides within my own awareness. May I meet each thought, each feeling, each moment with gentle acceptance. May I remember that serenity is not a distant goal, but the stillness found in a surrendered heart. This path of cultivating inner peace through non-resistance and mindful acceptance is a lifelong journey, a continuous unfolding. There will be moments when the old habits of struggle reassert themselves, when the waters of the mind become turbulent again. But with each conscious return to stillness, with each gentle act of self-compassion, the roots of peace deepen within us. We learn that peace is not a fragile state to be fiercely protected, but a resilient core that can hold all of life's experiences with wisdom and grace. Thank you for sharing this exploration, for opening your mind and heart to these ancient yet ever-relevant teachings. May the untold answer continue to resonate within you, guiding you towards the quiet, abiding peace that is your truest nature. If this reflection has offered a measure of solace or insight, please feel welcome to share your own journey in the comments below. Your experience can be a source of encouragement and light for others. With a heartfelt wish for your profound and lasting peace, farewell for now.